So right now for this video, I want to bring up something that's happened in recent news related to Andor, related to Diego Luna, the main actor who plays Andor, Cassian Andor in the show. Controversy. Star Wars creators have been mentioning and saying, oh, he shouldn't have said that because he went on Jimmy Kimmel and he said something like, the Force only sort of calls and is there for and helps people who voted the right way, implying, obviously, that voting for Trump means that the Force isn't going to help you. There were comments earlier, also indirect, but clear. So he already expressed some concerns, even without naming any names. It's clear that he's talking about the current presidency is not having a positive effect on the relationship between Mexico and the U.S. and the Mexican people. And he's a Mexican actor. And the interview ends with him mentioning this bit about like the Force only comes to help you depending on who you voted for or something like that. And a lot of people said, oh, he shouldn't have said that. He should keep politics out of Star Wars. And oh, that's ridiculous that he's saying that. And oh, he can have his personal opinions, but that he should keep politics out of Star Wars. First of all, Star Wars has always been very political. Pretty much all the Star Wars fans know, like, yeah, George Lucas was saying that, you know, the rebels were fighting against the Empire, and that would have been the U.S. The U.S. government fighting against the Viet Cong, and he was saying that the rebels would have been the Viet Cong, the people fighting for independence in their own country. And of course it's not a one-for-one match, but he is drawing an allusion to something in real life. What I want to do in this video now is just break down some of the comparisons to real life politics right now and the show Andor, because again, Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, his main character is all about revolution against an authoritarian government. That's what the Empire is. And when you remove the space wizards shooting lightning from their hands and the scary guy in black armor with a spooky voice and a red glowing sword, you realize actually it's a lot more simple and mundane in everyday life, where this evil comes from, where this authoritarian grip binds people and traps people, and how it hurts everyone. And it comes down to the everyman, and that's what Andor is about. It is about the perspective of the everyman, the little people who are fighting against this oppression. And so it only makes sense that Diego Luna, his character being the like singular target of his own personal growth into rebellion, but also just being the mirror that all of us are looking at and the entire show is looking at as the galaxy going into rebellion. And so it only makes sense that he's going to see authoritarianism in real life and authoritarianism in Star Wars, especially when it's the more adult version of Star Wars, and he's going to see where these things cross and make a lot of sense. The resentencing and the PORD directive, that is eerily close to what's going on with our deportation of people to El Salvador in the U.S. right now. This is probably the biggest one. So many people right now are being not even deported, but sent to another country that's not even their own country, without any due process, without any court, without any evidence, without anything. And Trump has said that he is thinking about extending it to citizens, to other forms of protest, and to other green card holders, and etc., for people that basically just disagree with him and are causing some sort of political inconvenience for him. So this is absolutely a relation to what is going on in Andor and what is going on in the U.S. government right now. We are just sending people to prison, making up their sentences. The El Salvadorian prison has released statements saying that they are not ever planning on releasing any of the inmates we sent them, and that we can't even get the ones that our Supreme Court has ordered returned. They say, oh, we can't possibly just release him and bring him back. And even more themes related to this are the overreach of power by our executive branch in real life and the overreach of power by the Emperor, the Chancellor. He was trying to get more and more power throughout Star Wars to build the Empire, consolidate more power to himself. That's what Trump's doing. Trump is overriding many of our judicial or congressional rules and regulations or stipulations, and he just doesn't really care. He's ordering Elon Musk and Doge and some others to just shut down agencies and just stop doing things, which he does not have the power to do, but he's defying all of these things like the courts and Congress and even the people overreaching his power. And that is what the Emperor would do too. Mon Mothma is fighting against it, and she's sort of trying to sound the alarm against some of these overreach of power, and there's a lot of people that aren't really paying attention. That's also very similar in real life, that people say, oh, you're overreacting, but we're getting eerily closer and closer. We are now, as many legal scholars and lawyers say, we are in a constitutional crisis. We are not maybe going to have one, but we are literally in one where the heads of our government are ignoring the Constitution and the rules of the Constitution for their own benefit, whether it's financial or it's just their own increased and consolidated power. So these are just to name a few of the themes between what Cassian Andor in the show Andor is fighting against when he's fighting the Empire. And these things are things that the actor, Diego Luna, clearly can see the correlation and connection. So it is not out of the question that he says these things on a talk show. And he didn't even name names, and he was sort of being lighthearted about it anyway. And it was just kind of to get some laughs. But obviously, if this show, Andor, is about resisting authoritarianism, and you have a problem with the lead actor whose character is the lead rebel resisting authoritarianism, making a public message about, authoritarianism bad, and rising authoritarianism, and now supplanted authoritarianism in the US government currently bang bad, and you have a problem with that, I think that's rather silly, and I think that one of a few things might be happening. One is that you don't like adult Star Wars, and that's what Andor is. You don't want actual real problems that feel close to home, that feel like they're happening in reality around you. You like the myth story. You like the hero's journey, and that's fine. That's a good story. I like that story too. The story of Luke and Darth Vader fighting the evil within, the darkness within, before you can fight the darkness out there, that's a great story too, and that has value. And we can have stories like that. You can enjoy a story like that. That's fine. But if you don't like the adult Andor that removes the space wizards and just makes it about real systems and real institutions and real governments that look very much like different governments, institutions and policies and whatnot around the world, not just the US, maybe Andor isn't for you. But if you like the adult version of Star Wars that talks about extremely real and relevant concepts and events, then watch Andor and see how it connects to real life, and look at the director and the actors who are part of it and see this stuff as they get into character, as they understand the world, and they go, oh yeah, actually that is bad. The other thing that might be happening is that you are just failing to see that what's happening in real life is the sort of stepping stones to the sort of Star Wars empire. You're not paying attention enough in real life, which is basically what Marva says. When we're sleeping, that's when it takes power. It claws back our rights, it claws back our liberties, it claws back our humanity. The empire, that authoritarianism, that power that tries to stamp you out. And maybe you need to listen to Marva's call, that you need to wake up and say, actually, wait, what is happening in my own government or in other governments around the world if you're not from the US? The third thing that this might be is that you just like authoritarianism. And you just want to imagine that the empire isn't like real life authoritarianism. You just want to imagine that the empire in Star Wars is just about the space wizards. And you want to have that myth without applying it to real life and seeing that actually, yes, the Star Wars is anti-authoritarian. And if you just like authoritarianism, then you might not like Diego Luna's comments. If you actually lived in the world of Star Wars, you would be like Cyril. You would be like Sergeant Mosk. You would be like Dedra Meero. And going forward, I think Season 2 will only parallel real life even more. I think that a lot of the hallmarks of authoritarian governments and a lot of the hallmarks of rebellions or revolutions have already been seen and were well researched by Tony Gilroy, the creator of Andor, of the show. And I think he's only right on the money with how these things go, how these things pan out. And unless things shift in some of the world governments that are trending authoritarian, we are going to see a lot more direct parallels between Andor and between real life. And it is only going to make a more direct political message that you are going to be uncomfortable with. This video was a little impromptu and just sort of thrown together because I saw some people complaining and saying, oh, I wish he hadn't have said that. I wish he hadn't have said that, because it's going to give a bad reputation to the show, or maybe it's going to make people not want to watch the show. But I think people who enjoy the acting of it, the craft of it, are going to enjoy that. And that's phenomenal in this show as well. And people who see the political message, who see the parallels to real life, are going to go, wow, yep, this is spot on. And someone like Diego Luna saying that is not a problem. And Diego Luna saying that in an offhanded joke anyways, a non-serious joke, is not a problem.